Like Edward Moss, right? He was the first one who was accused of. Edward Moss was 100% related to the CCP. Melveny big law firm. All lawyers there, and what they have been done will definitely be investigated by the U.S. You can see the man named Higginbotham, as a lawyer in the Ministry of Justice, worked with the Ministry of Justice. In the history of the U.S., the DOJ has never been corrupted by anyone from a foreign country. Higginbotham, a young Justice Department lawyer who collected more than $70 million in bribes from Malaysian Zhou Lo. Zhou Lo is Meng Jianzhu's illegitimate son. Zhou Lo and Wu Zheng, these bastards bribed lawyers. Higginbotham received $70 million in bribes. Think about how much Elliot Broidy and his wife Nickie Lum Davis received. How much did Steve Wynn get? Think about how much bribes Blackstone, these bastards, took. They had collected tens of billions or hundreds of billions to engage Miles, right? Then on April 18, 2017, it was Pag Shan Weijian who sued Miles. As the managing director of Pag, how much pension money did Shan Weijian get around the world? One of Shan Weijian's children bought a house in the United States for 20 to 30 million US dollars. Sisters and brothers, do you know how big a deal it was? It was an all-cash transaction. Think about how big the deal was in the United States. Even the president couldn't do that. It's all cash. How exaggerated this was. I heard that his son and his American daughter-in-law had a lot of stock assets. So where did this money and the money used to screw up Miles come from? Everyone said this was the money Shan Weijian took out. Think about it. The CCP fined my family in China $13 billion. Where did Shan Weijian get the money to corrupt these lawyers? It's all for me, Miles. Now the law firm Melveny has taken at least about 20 million US dollars. Others should have taken 50 to $60 million. A total of 70 to 80 million US dollars was spent. Privately, there should be more money for the bribes. Where did this money come from? It's all money for Miles' family. The CCP used Miles' money to bring down Miles. How much was this compared to 13 billion US dollars? What a dark operation. Another one, remember it. All the Pag lawsuits against me. Miles just had a so-called non-existent debt of 30 million. I was just a guarantor. I didn't owe Pag a penny. And the relationship was between the guaranteed Pangu and Pag. Pangu is still there. The CCP could take away my family's 13 billion, and the CCP could give Miles the so-called 30 million debt, right? If Pangu owed you, why would you ask me for it? Why the case should be filed on April 18th? That is one day before VOA's live broadcast of cutting off on April 19th. Moreover, from the time the Pag case was filed until now, I had the right to a jury, but there was no jury. It didn't let me use a jury, didn't allow me provide evidence, and didn't let me say a word. I was not even allowed to provide the authenticity verification of that document. Really, I don't think Afghanistan or China's judicial system was worse than this. And you need to know, the first so-called fine of 30 million renminbi in debt was 130 million renminbi. Think about how terrible this was. I set the record for the most fines in the world. The first fine was more than 100 million US dollars. Then the yacht, which did not legally belong to me, was fined 500,000 a day. A total of 134 million was fined. With this fine of 240 million or 250 million, I created a record for the highest fine in the history of the U.S. Don't you think the Pag case was in collusion with those bastards like Higginbotham, Nickie Lum Davis, Elliot Broidy, the Department of Justice, Michael Waller, and French Wallop? Do you think their collusion with the CCP in the time when Pag sued me on April 18th were all accidental? Do you think it's a coincidence? No, but don't forget the ending after reading the beginning. Higginbotham was caught. Elliot Broidy and Steve Wynn were both bankrupt, right? The big fish hasn't come out yet, but eventually they will. The verdict in this Pag case was a fine of 134 million. To be honest, I'm really confused about the fine on the yacht. I don't even know where these 134 million and a fine of 500,000 a day came from. All the lawyers said that the fine in the U.S. could not be more than double the cost of the yacht. It can't exceed double its original price of 27 million. Its fine has been more than 4 times. And I was told that I must pay within 5 days. If I didn't pay, I would be in jail. This is probably unprecedented in the history of the United States. How crazy this was. What kind of power made them so arrogant? And this judgment was drafted by Pag's lawyers. Basically, the judge added a few words of his opinion and threw out the verdict. Don't you think it's scary? In this law firm Melveny, its lead lawyer is called Edward Moss. He was kicked out for seriously violating professional ethics. To what extent did he violate professional ethics? False information. DoAway website faked it for him. DoAway is the website of the CCP. DoAway was actually able to cooperate with a lawyer and provide false evidence, and then tamper with the time and photos on the website. Why did DoAway create false information for Melveny and Pag? It's very simple. Only the CCP has this ability. It's the CCP's website. At that time, GTV's data was leaked by Duoway. Then Edward Moss, the Melveny Law Firm representing Pag, told the judge that Miles was in contempt of court, and he discovered that GTV is owned by Mike's Squad. GTV stocks, news, information, stock share, all information regarding GTV is owned only by the SEC. How could he have it? How could a fish in the water have information about the monkey on the mountain? What's the concept? Someone must have given the information about the monkeys on the mountain to the fish. This fish needed a boat to send a message to it. We submitted it to the judge. We asked Edward Moss to provide where the GTV information came from. The judge said, "You couldn't ask this again, and I won't accept your request." At this point, we have to ask why. As a result, a message came out on the Duoway website. This message was said by Miles Guo himself at that time. It turned out that the information was fake. The judge said that Miles Guo was not allowed to ask about this again. I was not allowed to ask any questions about our lawsuit over the past 5 years. The leak of GTV information, our identification of authenticity, we asked for a jury. No matter how many times we asked questions, the judge did not allow to ask. All my requests were rejected. Think about the yacht that Guo owned it and said, "It was mine. My family's assets are mine. May I ask about my current assets in China?" Think about from beginning to the end in the judgment of Pangu Company. Even the CCP did not say that everything belonged to me. It locked up my sixth brother, my fourth brother, my nieces and nephews. Could it be said that Pangu belonged to Guo? Why couldn't it say that it belonged to Guo? Because it didn't belong to Guo alone. It belonged to the family. From the first day, it has been in the family since Zhengzhou Yuda. Then it said that it belonged to the family, that Miles has full control over the assets of the family. Everything they control belonged to them. Then they fined me $134 million. Don't you think this logic was ridiculous? The most important thing in American law is procedural justice. Where's the procedure? Evidence is the basis for judgment. Where's the evidence? Every question we had to ask about this case, the judge refused. The judge supported all the other parties' requests, even if the other party's procedure was illegal. It didn't matter. In American law, do judges have this power? Judges do. Most of them have this power. But what will be the consequences of the implementation of this power? It would be extremely unfair, and extreme injustice would cause extreme harm to one party. However, you have the right to appeal in the end.